glorified in the cartoon industry, but many people are beginning to realize that Paul is more than a cartoon voice, but he's also one of the leaders in creating some of the answers for some of the problems that we've encountered on this earth, such as heart trouble. Can you discuss that briefly, how you became involved with artificial hearts?
Well, actually, I have to really give all of the accolades to a gentleman by the name of Henry Heimlich, Dr. Heimlich. I think you're familiar with Dr. Heimlich, the creator of the Heimlich maneuver for people who are choking on food. Go ahead, you go right ahead, people. Everything's okay. And I would say about 30 years ago, when I became interested in cardiology, Dr. Heimlich was very helpful to let me come to the hospitals, to watch the surgical procedures, to scrub in and to walk through the surgical suites and watch everything that the surgeons were doing. And then one day he allowed me to come in and watch some open heart surgery.
And Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith doing at this time?
Well, Jerry and Knucklehead are at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. I sent them to Washington, D.C. because I knew that there were quite a few other dummies back there. And when the museum asked me to send them, I was very, very pleased and very flattered, because I know that Charlie McCarthy is there and Mortimer Snerd, Bergen's characters.
I didn't mean to break you away from your story, but actually...
Oh, I don't care what you...
What were Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith doing while you were learning, while you were peeking over the shoulders of the surgeon? Were you doing this at the same time?
Oh, yes, I was still doing my... This all took place while I was still doing my TV show. It was after I became very interested in medicine that I started to devote less time to the theatrical industry and more time to medicine. But again, at the risk of being redundant, it was Dr. Heimlich who really was my inspiration and helped to guide me through. And by letting me watch open heart surgery, that's when the idea came to me that a heart could be made that was mechanical and with a separate power source of its own. And I felt that it was feasible and a viable option to help humanity. And the rest is history.
You were able to assist in the implantation of that heart into a calf. Can you tell me how you felt when that was a success? I believe you lived for 8 months.
Well, they allowed me to scrub in and do surgical assist because the patient was a cow, or steer, really. And if it were a human being, of course, it would be illegal for me to have done that. But the feeling that I had is really almost inexplicable. It's pretty hard to put into words the feeling that comes when you have an idea that really deals with life and death, and then suddenly you see it working, and you are spending some time with an animal who is alive without a heart of its own, and living on some technology that you dreamed up a long time ago. It was very gratifying and very thrilling.
I guess one of your problems now is the power source for that heart, is that right?
Well, I don't know whether that's my problem, or whether that's this fella's problem, or whether it's the problem of the University of Utah, or Dr. DeVries, or Dr. Jarvik. But actually, I have always been, I've had an aversion towards the air, compressed air. I feel that that pushes the blood too hard. There's too much force for each thrust. And it's my opinion that that's what causes a great deal of the difficulty in 3 of the patients that have so far passed away.
As an inventor, could you share with us some of your latest inventions? We know that you've been working on a wind power source. Can you tell me something about that?
Well, that's basically a wind turbine. There have been wind turbines for hundreds of years, so essentially that's nothing new. The thing that is revolutionary is the generator, which is attached to the wind turbine. And the difference there is every other generator in the world is completed with iron around the periphery, and this is what the physicists have always believed makes a generator function, because it completes the path of the magnetic flux by keeping it within the generator. We came up with a ironless generator, and everybody said it wouldn't work because the flux would now pass through the aluminum. It wouldn't be attracted to the iron, and it would dissipate out into space. Well, that seems to be a problem quite often with people who know too much, because when they know or believe they know exactly what's going to happen, then they find themselves not investigating phenomena that maybe should be looked into. We, of course, my colleague and myself, didn't have that knowledge that the physicist has, so we didn't know that it couldn't be done. So we built one, and it worked.
You wrote a book just about two years ago. How has it been coming along? What has been the response to it?
Well, the response has been very, very emotional. A lot of people have become very uptight with the book. It seems as whenever you mention religion in any source, or whether you discuss a new perspective on how to recognize the existence of God without the Bible, it seems that so many people become so offended, and yet they don't realize that they themselves are reading a book which doesn't tell them anything about God. Reading the Bible, you can't learn anything about God. All you can learn is what those people who wrote the Bible believed about God. And I think it's horse races. Their opinion is as good as mine. Mine is as good as theirs. As a matter of fact, with science, I think that I have more evidence to base my approach on than our early forebears, who I'm sure their intentions were well-meaning, but they didn't have any telescopes or any microscopes or any scientific technology or instrumentation to measure anything. And therefore, they judged by whatever the eye and the ear could observe. And we know today that those organs are very poor tools of cognition.
Tell me about your latest project on plant development.
Well, in the early 1970s, I was fooling around as an experimental project with some aquaculture, polyculture, trying to raise fish on land. Now that may seem very paradoxical, but of course we used water, but we weren't near any bodies of water. We just dug appropriate ponds, and we filled the ponds with water, and then we raised a certain kind of fish. The name of the fish was tilapia. It's not too well known, but it's a very prolific fish, and it can do incredible things. The female can spawn 300 eggs at one time. That means 300 little fry. And if this project is held in a tropical country where it's very warm, then the female can spawn every month. Just to give you a rough idea, if you had 1 acre of water, you have 500 males and 500 females. From that 1 acre, you could receive as your yield 125,000 new fish every month. So when I began to realize the staggering amount of food that could be raised upon a farm, and at the same time, in another pool, you grow a microalgae called spirulina, which you feed to the fish, because tilapia are vegetarians. They do not eat each other. They're not predators. They don't eat flesh. So therefore, if you get 300 fry from each female, they're going to mature into 300 fish. Well, when I began to see the quantity and the tonnage that could be grown with this kind of technology, and I heard about the African famine and the drought and the problems that they were having, I approached Ed Asner with this technology, and he became very, very excited about it, and he contacted many celebrities who finally gave us permission to use their names as our supporters. I don't want to mention, I'll forget people, I know, but just briefly, we've got Jane Fonda, and we've got Richard Dreyfuss, and John Ritter and Ed himself and Morgan Fairchild and on and on and on and on. And then I also, with a man named Arnie Newman, we contacted many scientists in the aquaculture and polyculture field, and they are now part of the organization, which is called Africa Tomorrow. We just got back from Washington, D.C., where we gave testimony, Ed and I, before a congressional committee, and we came back with a petition endorsing our technology signed by almost 100 congressmen. So we are applying for a grant of about $40 million, which if we are fortunate enough to get, I'll be going to Africa to do some feasibility field studies on where these facilities can be located, and we will be able to feed, if we get $40,000, we'll be able to feed 8 million people forever. I mean forever, with no additional expense. So that's one of the current projects that I'm in.
You have been recognized for doing so many voices, and I know that the Schmerps is one of your latest successes.
The Schmerps.
Why do you think the Schmerps are such a success?
Well, I think the Gummy Bears is going to be just as big as the Smurfs.
Bigger.
For the same, you just heard a voice from the rear cry out, bigger. That man, just because he happens to be connected with Disney and he happens to be involved with the gummies, he's not prejudiced.
Can we bring him in and talk?
But
Could you introduce yourself to the camera?
introduce yourself to the microphone.
My name is Cat Holiday, and I have been taught to talk like this by none other than Paul Winchell himself.
I bet you think that I'm doing that.
He did it. He did it.
Suppose you tell us why the Gummy Bears are going to be as big as the Smurfs. What quality will make it so?
Size mostly. Smurfs are about like this.
Yeah.
Gummies are about like this, so they are as big as Smurfs. No, actually.
Oh, so all we have to do is get small characters. Very
I think
simplistic.
the proof will be in the pudding and animation.
What pudding?
The animation pudding.
Oh.
And when you see these gummies move, you're going to say to yourself, gee, they sure do move well. I think maybe they move better than the Smurfs. So we'll see. We'll see if the animation is better.
Well, I'd like to amplify that. It's true. The animation is much more Disney-ish and not as limited as most animations on television. But I don't think that's the quality that the kids are really going to get excited about.
The story maybe, huh?
No, you know what I think it is?
No.
I think that it's got the same kind of charm as the Smurfs have in not having too much violence.
Oh, no, yeah,
and,
really.
and also having a lot of sweetness.
And maybe a little lesson to be learned at
That's
the
right,
end.
a little morality. I think
Yeah.
that's what's going to do it.
In the long run, that will mean more than just, say, flashy animation.
I think the time has come to put values back into Saturday mornings.
If Disney were alive today and he could come and visit the studio and talk with you, what would you say to him, and what do you think he would say to you?
I think I would say to him, hey, Walt, what's happening? Isn't it great how we're expanding, you know, and trying to find new ways of handling the pressures of the current problems with the money and budgets and stuff? I mean, there's always animation, they say, is too expensive to do, but the youngsters that come up and the kids who are eager to do animation have to find ways to keep on doing it. And if it means subcontracting to foreign countries, or if it means splitting up into 3 different studios or whatever it means, just to keep on going, it means something. To stop and say it's over with because from 55 on it was not happening anymore is ridiculous. Any way that you can, anytime there's a desire to continue an art form, there will be ways found to continue. And then Walt would say, we've got to find new ways to do this stuff. We've got to find cheaper ways, more economical ways, you know. We can't say, oh, animation costs too much, so let's just forget it.
You get the feeling this guy's a little militant.
No.
Why did he fight?
Adamant maybe, but not militant.
Well, I would say something different. I would say, Walt, why did you die? You screwed up the whole
You
business.
really messed it up. Yeah.
How's
Well-
that for an answer?
How do you feel about the latest technology in animation? Do you think it's been an addition or a hindrance? How do you
If it allows us to continue, great. If we go to digital coloring, fine. I don't care. I just want to keep on doing it. So, just because we're doing it and things have to be limited or things have to be done in 2 weeks, doesn't mean that goodness can't come out of that. It doesn't mean that it just has to be bad because it's quick or cheap or whatever. If there's ways, let's continue.
I don't even think that that's a viable point, because I think animation has proved that it's here to stay, and whatever technology comes along to either make it easier or to either help facilitate the process, animation is here, and whatever happens that's going to make it better is just going to enhance and improve it. But I don't think anything is going to hurt it or stop it.
Yeah, nothing will stop it. And people will draw it on toilet paper at home if nobody will let them do it any other way.
I'm doing a new series on toilet paper, by the way.
I'm coloring it.
I'd like to show it to you.
I'm coloring it brown.
I'm glad you don't write the shows.
I would never